My husband was just arrested for my death. I am still very much alive. I was grocery shopping when my phone exploded with texts and missed calls, friends, colleagues, even my estranged mother minus all frantically asking if I was okay. If the news was true, what news, I wondered, pushing my cart toward the checkout. When I finally called my best friend back, her sobbing voice made my blood run cold. They're saying Daniel killed you. It's all over the local news. Police arrested him an hour ago at your house. I nearly dropped my phone. Daniel, my husband of 3 years, arrested for my murder. I'd left him at home that morning working from his home office as usual. We'd kissed goodbye. He'd reminded me to buy coffee. I abandoned my cart and raced to my car, calling the police station with shaking hands. The dispatcher seemed stunned by my voice, transferring me immediately to a detective who demanded I come in person to verify my identity. At the station, I was ushered into a room where 2 detectives stared at me like they were seeing a ghost. They explained that a woman's body had been found in the woods behind our neighborhood park, minus a woman matching my description, wearing my size, with similar hair. In her pocket was my driver's license, but the most damning evidence, security footage showing Daniel entering those woods early that morning and cell phone data placing him at the scene. When questioned, he'd apparently become agitated, defensive. He'd refused to say where I was. Can I see him? I asked. The detectives exchanged looks. He confessed, one finally said. When we showed him the evidence, he broke down and admitted to strangling you during an argument last night. My mind raced. We hadn't argued last night. We'd watched a movie and gone to bed early. Daniel had been the same kind, a somewhat distracted man I'd married, minus perhaps a bit more stressed lately with his new position, but certainly not violent. Why would he confess to killing me when I was very much alive? As I waited in an interview room, the pieces started falling together. The strange calls he'd been receiving late at night, his insistence on changing our security system last month, the way he'd been checking the locks obsessively, and most tellingly minus his desperate plea last week. If anything strange happens, Grace, promise you'll remember that I love you. Our savings, nearly $200,000 saved for a down payment on a house minus, had been emptied yesterday. When a detective returned, I asked a question that made him pause. The woman who was killed, does she look like me? Or did she look like me? As in, could she have been trying to look like me? 4 hours later, I was finally permitted to see Daniel. When the door opened and he saw me standing there alive, his face crumpled in a mixture of disbelief, relief, and something else, terror. They found me, he whispered. I thought if they believed they'd succeeded, you'd be safe. Now I sit in the police station while my husband explains to detectives about the witness protection program. We were never actually in the identities we were given, and the people he testified against years before we met minus people who apparently just found us. I always knew Daniel was hiding something. I just never imagined I was married to a dead man walking.